So we've talked a little bit about how um, you've been in an accident and how that's kind of changed your life. And so there's a specific kind of therapy that I think you would benefit from. It's called exposure therapy, and the point of it is really to help connect you with your senses and kind of put back together the memory of the accident and make it more tolerable to feel. Like when you have flashbacks or you have nightmares, it won't be as severe, and you'll be more in control of what you're thinking and feeling. So the thing about exposure therapy is that the way that we go about achieving that kind of control is to give you some exposure in little doses to things that might trigger you. So that can be a little scary for people, that idea, kind of getting faced with things that scare them. But the important thing to remember is that this is an evidence-based therapy, so it's happened with a lot of people, has a lot of research into it, and it's been found to be one of the most effective therapies there are to help people who've experienced trauma. And also I've had a lot of training in doing this sort of therapy, so you can feel confident, that this is something that has worked for people and something that could help you if you were interested in engaging with it. Does that seem like something you would be willing to give a try to?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the two big parts of the therapy are doing some exposure in therapy where it won't be like direct exposure, like, because obviously we can't like go into a car while you're here, but doing some narrative exposure and basically breaking down what happened kind of verbally, or maybe if you respond better to writing, we could do it that way. And then the second part is to do what they call in vivo exposure, which is actually exposing yourself to some of the triggers, and that would be something that you would do outside of therapy, either with someone that you felt comfortable with that could support you, or if you prefer to do it on your own, you can do it that way as well. So that's kind of what you would be in for going forward. So one thing I want to kind of dive into is doing some narrative exposure. So could you tell me a little more about the accident that you were in?
Well, there's only so much that I do remember. I was with a work crew not that long ago. I don't remember exactly when it was, but we originally started the job with 2 work trucks, and something happened. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure what happened to one of the trucks. So we only had 1 truck. We had 6 guys. 1 truck. It was just a regular cab, so there's only 2 seats in the front. We had 6 guys. We had to figure out how to get back with just this 1 vehicle. So we piled 4 guys into the bed of the truck. I was one of the guys in the bed, and then we had 2 in the cab. And we went over this, you know what a holler is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, dirt and gravel. We went down this real steep holler, and it was, you ever heard of like a road being washboarded? It's just dirt and gravel to the point where it could be slick as ice, basically. And our driver didn't know that. I didn't realize that he was a younger guy. And somebody had leaned in the cab and said, "Hey, you got to take it easy because this hill's got washboards on it." And no longer than it took him to say that, the kid locked up the brakes, and the truck dives over a hill, and next thing you know, it's rolling. I must have blacked out at some point, or I hit my head at some point, because next thing I remember, I'm catching myself from falling on the ground. My glasses are gone. My friends are all over the place. it was a scary time, and trying to climb back up that hill and help my friends get back up the hill as well. It was a tough one. Had to walk the rest of the way home. Wasn't a good day.
So, can you remember the moments like before the accident actually took place?
Yeah. No, I don't. I remember Dan. He leaned into the cab to tell Colin to be careful, but I don't remember much. I don't remember much before that, and that was, not 10 seconds before the truck went over the hill.
So is that the last thing you remember hearing?
Yeah. Yes.
Are there any particular smells that you can remember?
Dirt. And, it was the middle of summer, and when I caught myself, the smell of the dirt on my hands. I remember that, and the trees. That's about it.
What about, can you remember any sensations, anything that you felt during that time? Do you remember any pain?
Not initially. I didn't feel anything until I got home. Actually, I had this enormous, I wouldn't call it a scar, because it didn't scar, but I had this big long cut that went all the way across my back. But I didn't feel, and I lost my glasses, and I think I broke a couple fingers, and it hit my head pretty hard. But I didn't feel anything until I got home. It must have been adrenaline.
Is there anything like that now you feel like you encounter that reminds you of the accident?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to drive. It's tough to be on hills, on dirt roads. I grew up in the backwoods. It was all I used to know. It's stuff like that. But it's hard to be on them anymore. I don't have any type of trust that it's not going to happen the second time. I can't bring myself to go back down that hill, and it was right down the road from where I grew up, and I still can't go right. I can't go near it because I feel like it's going to happen again. I don't know how it doesn't happen to more people because it's dangerous over there.
So if you had to rate how fearful you feel about going back to that place on a scale from 1 to 10, where do you think you fall on that scale?
Probably a 9. Probably a 9. I don't think that I'll be confident enough to do that for a good while.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's something, maybe as we go through this therapy that we could work up to. You being able to go back there, maybe that would be the ultimate end goal. But I think for now, a good place to start might just be to open the door of your car and sit in it for anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, as long as you felt like you could handle it. Do you feel like that's something that you could do?
I think so.
Does that feel like something that would help you?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, Because I mean, after all that, I don't really trust anybody else to be behind the wheel. You know, I just don't like the feeling of it being out of my control.
Yeah. And you know, I think regaining that control back will just be something that you have to take steps toward. But it's definitely possible. And so just taking that first step, sitting in the car, whether that's you doing that alone or if you have someone else that you want to bring in, just sit in the car with you just to help, you know, keep your anxiety levels down. That would be a good first step to take to kind of expose yourself to a trigger that